Hi, everyone. Please open up your hymnals to Book 5. I'm Zeno Macaluso. I'm SAG-AFTRA's National Director and Senior Counsel for Professional Representatives. I'm very honored to be here tonight. Hello to everyone who's watching us live stream, including our UK friends. If you're still up at this ridiculous hour, we'd love to hear from you when the question period comes up. Let me introduce a very esteemed panel for this evening. First up, we have Jaime Farrar from JFA, the Jaime Farrar Agency. Jaime has over 30 years of experience in the... Oh, you're already up here. That's great. Agents cannot take cues to save their life. Jaime has over 30 years of experience in the entertainment industry as an actor, director, and talent agent. He is currently the owner of JFA, the Jaime Farrar Agency, representing actors in film, television, and theater, as well as in commercials. He has been the proud owner of his agency for almost 12 years now. As an actor, Jaime was involved in many committees at SAG-AFTRA, and he participated in the negotiating team for the commercials contract, among others. That is a thankless job, by the way. With his deep level of experience in the industry, he is able to engage with actors both on a business and on an acting level. He is also one of the kindest and most sympathetic people with whom I've had the pleasure of dealing while in this job. Please help me welcome Jaime Farrar. See, that
was my entrance right there.
That would have been your cue. So
I'm using it for later.
I'm not rubbing it in or anything. Now watch how this is done correctly, Jaime. Next up is Robin Harrington from the Lemon Lime Agency. Robin practically revolutionized the commercial industry in the 90s when she opened her talent agency, Dragon Talent. Filling the niche for hip, cool, interesting faces in a time when most other agencies were only representing commercial P&G types, she ensured her position as a trendsetter and innovator. Sensing a sea change in the industry, she and her business partner, Chaim Magnum, rebranded their agency into Lemon Lime Talent with a Twist. Lemon Lime currently represents quirky, hip, and real character types and interesting beauties. Robin is well known for participating in educational talks for actors and supports the Hollywood charity Homeless Youth My Friend's Place. She's an extraordinary agent, as you will hear tonight, and she has a wealth of information to share for any acting professional looking to make it in this business. Please help me welcome Robin Harrington to the stage. Welcome, Robin. Next up is Mark Measures. Hi. Mark became a partner and co-owner at Kazarian Measures, Ruskin and Associates in 2013. An industry veteran of more than 25 years, he was previously at Abrams Artist Agency, where he led its commercial, voiceover, and endorsement divisions. With an incredible 50 years of serving the entertainment industry, KMR has consistently been ranked by the Los Angeles Business Journal in the top 15 talent agencies, and that in large part has to do with Mark. Facing an ever-changing landscape, Mark remains committed to the fulfillment of the ambitions and dreams of his clients, and he does so with passion, integrity, and personalized attention. When Mark speaks about the industry, people listen, and for a reason. Mark is also, almost without fail, the funniest person in any room that he is in, a fact which I both hate and am immensely jealous of. So please help me welcome Mark Measures to the stage.
No pressure there at all, Zeno. No pressure whatsoever.
No pressure at all. You'll see that Mark is wearing a cast. We had a little bit of a scuffle backstage, and I needed to lay the law down. So apologies for that, Mark. Next up is Angela Strange. Angela comes to us from Palm Springs and started her career at Gold Marshak Leitke, now known as TalentWorks. She began as an intern for the theatrical and literary divisions and later the assistant to the commercial division. Over time, she realized she needed to spread her wings, so she joined the Osbrink Talent Agency, where she remains today. She immediately began in the adult commercials division and later headed the children's commercials department. She has been with Osbrink for an illustrious 17 years thus far. She has been the head of adult commercials and print and is the vice president of operations. Angela has been repeatedly nominated for the Talent Managers Association Heller Award for adult commercial performers, which she won in 2009. She is quite simply a bottomless well of information and one of the most respected agents working in her field today. It is my pleasure to introduce her to you today. It's Angela Strange. Please help me welcome her to the stage. That's a pretty illustrious panel, I'm sure you'll agree. So while we're waiting for your questions to come up here and for our online questions to come up here, I'll just start the general discussion. Because this is obviously a room full of actors who are either seeking representation or want more information about how to get an agent, I'd like if you could all start to address the issue of how you like to be approached by a member when they are seeking representation. Do you like drop-ins? Do you like electronic submissions? How do you best like to do business in that regard? Now, don't all jump in at once.
Electronic.
Go ahead.
Electronic submissions, and the information's on our website of where you can send your, and we prefer links instead of attachments. It's always the easiest.
Yeah, it's a lot easier that way. A lot of times, people do that sort of electronic submission, and they tell you the name and who you are and what you've done, and then they go, please go look me up. It's a lot harder to do that. So it's so much easier now if you just send a link for your Actors Access, or I prefer Actors Access or LA Casting links over to a website or anything else like that.
Or Spotlight.
Exactly. So anything that's really quick and it gives us an idea of what you have, and you may have a demo on that too. That always helps. It's always the best. Drop-offs, a lot of times you drop in unexpectedly at the wrong time when we're negotiating something or something's going on, and we can have that conversation with you, and we may come across as being rude and that sort of thing. It's not the case. It's just that you're there at the wrong time at the wrong place. So there you go.
I actually, because my IT guy tells me so, we don't prefer links because we don't know where it links to. So we actually prefer the attachment. And like I like to say that, this is just one asshole's opinion. And that's what you're getting from me is one asshole's opinion, and other assholes have their own opinions. So, we don't prefer a link. We prefer you embedded in the email so we can look at it, and then we don't click on it and end up with, Xenos,
Right.
videos.
Right.
So that's it. As far as, I actually prefer hard copy submissions, but I'm old. I know, and I don't work in Costa Rica, but whatever. But I would tell you, don't do it with food. I know you think you're clever, and when you put the picture in with the pizza, your face gets covered with oil. And we won't eat submission food in general. We call it submission food because we don't know who you are.
I'm sorry, people are giving you food?
Yeah, one guy actually brought a tray of lasagna to his meeting, and we did sign him because it was really good lasagna. But I absolutely have had a picture in a pizza.
Wow.
Open envelopes and chocolate falls out. Any number of things. So we call it submission food, and we won't eat
Wow,
it.
okay.
So.
This is how Anthrax got started.
So actually, after some of the submission food, I think I would prefer Anthrax. Yeah, rose petals, confetti, you're on my shit list. Anything falls out of your envelope but a cover letter and a picture, forget it. Not only that, but I Twitter it and I email it to all the other agents in town, and you are blackballed. I'm like, this one's a glitterer, and they're like, oh, got it.
I just wanted to say, just do your research, because truthfully, there's so many different agencies, and so many of them have their own particular way that they want to take submissions. So if you don't have clear information through a website, that's what the receptionist is for. They can give you particular information that some agents can be very particular about.
That's
And-
what she's for, not to run to the bathroom every 20 minutes?
Yes. Answer the phone and help out potential clients. But I mean, it's truthful because honestly, there's a lot of agents who, if you spell their name wrong, if they're not in that department and you're emailing them about print and they're a theatrical agent, all these types of things will not get your submission considered.
And be careful with your cover letter that comes to me and says, "Dear Robin, I've heard a ton about your agency."
Right.
Yeah, mine is Dear Miss Jamie.
No, dear Miss Jamie, that's nice, yeah.
Jaime.
Well, I can tell you that the California bar sent me my dues notice, and it was addressed to Ms. Nuno Macauzo. So you're not.
Perfect. As long as
You're
they got
not-
the
you're not
bar,
alone there,
as
yeah.
long as they got the bar number
That's
right.
right. That's right. So, a lot of the industry professionals that I speak to seem to indicate to me that more and more the way to get yourself a qualified agent is through a referral. So, either someone who is an acting teacher or a casting director of note or someone else in the industry. Does that help get that submission to the top of your pile as opposed to just a cold mailing or a cold email?
Yes.
Yeah, for me it does. I mean, it's always the best recommendation, and especially if it's an industry professional, you're going to trust them.
I always say, use who you know. It's a business about using people, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean in a positive way, right? I mean, if you're in acting class, talk to the people in class with you. Say, hey, would you take my picture in your agent? But do your homework. Again, like Angela says, don't talk to your friend who never gets out by their agent and say, would you take my picture in? Well, that agent's not getting them out. Why would they get you out? So do your homework and use the people you know. We all have. I say I can sit in my chair. I don't care as long as all my friends get powerful. So all my friends start creating shows and running, studios and casting. I would say be nice to the casting associates and assistants because they're the future casting directors. The people that I work with on a daily basis, we started as assistants together 25, 26 years ago. So I'm using those people today. I can call and get them on the phone and get people in the door. I'm using them. That's what I'm doing. Doesn't necessarily be a negative thing because you're using people. So use the people you know to get in to the places you want to get into.
Yeah, and a referral is when a casting director or one of my agency actually brings in a photo or emails me, hey, this is a person I think is right for your agency. A referral isn't, oh, I was over at Kathy Carlton's and she said I might be right for Lemon Lime. That's not a referral, that's Kathy suggesting something. So there's a difference.
So let's talk about the logistics, right? Because there are many more actors, obviously, particularly in the Los Angeles area, than there are agents to represent them. So if I were, even with a referral, to communicate with one of you about potential representation, what steps can I use to follow up? Do you want to call a week after the submission has been made? Do you want someone to drop by the office, or do you just want us to, as a performer, sit back and wait to see if they're contacted? Because people want to be represented. They want to make sure that you've gotten their headshot and resume and they're real. So how would they, if at all, approach you in that circumstance?
No approach.
No.
Well, unless you bring a check. Bring a check. That's like, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. People in England, I'm kidding.
I prefer cash.
Right, yeah, well,
Right.
it's always better
not
because
traceable.
they don't spell your name wrong.
Right.
I mean,
You're talking about follow-up after they've made
Yes,
the submission.
that's what I'm talking about.
I think that I'm a bit unique in the sense that if you send to me, you get an answer from my office one way or another. Me personally, not anybody at KMR. I open all my own mail. I sometimes don't respond to emails, but if you send me a hard copy picture, you get a call back from my office saying, thank you, we're not interested at this time, but, feel free to resubmit in 6 months. So that's, I think, unique.
that's unique.
I
Very unique.
think that, Cunningham is a giant book, and they write in everybody that sends in their picture, so you can call and ask the receptionist, and she can say, yes, they got your material. So I think, again, you're going to get 8 million different answers to this question. But I think the general rule is if you've sent your stuff, following up isn't going to help get it noticed anymore. If the reasons are there that we want to call you in, we'll call you in. It's not going to be because, all right, you called me. That's probably not going to do you any better than we've just picked it out of the pile and brought you in.
What if I have my referral call you? Would that work?
Yeah, it works. Yeah, absolutely works better.
Better.
Absolutely, yes. If your referral, but your referral should be the one who calls me anyway, and your picture would follow that up
Right,
anyway,
to
right?
let you know
So
that
the
it's coming.
casting director would call and say, "Hey, I found this great kid. I want you to meet. I think you should meet him." Then when your picture gets to me, I'm going to pay attention to it in that way. So then if you don't hear from us, we're not
I
interested.
also think it's important that the actor does research on the agencies. There's different levels of agencies, different sizes. Certain people handle, developmental talent. If people are in that stage, you should follow that lead. You should approach an agency in that direction. Because I think everybody has their own way of doing things, but also the more boutique, the more of an approachable sort of situation you're going to find. So many times it depends on the size of the agency, the level of the agency, for wherever you are with your career.
I akin it to Dante's Rings of Hell. All these different levels of agency. People move up and down through the different rings of hell.
I mean, the bottom line is if you're right for the agency, we're going to call you. So if you don't hear, then it just probably means you're not right. Unfortunately for our agency, we are a boutique agency. We're small. We don't have the staff, the manpower to let everybody know that we got their submission and we're not going to bring them in. So we only reply to the people we're interested in seeing.
And truthfully, you have to remember, we are paid to have a strong visual. We all know what our agencies do best. We all know what we're looking for, and sometimes we don't know it until we see it, and we're like, oh, yes, there's trends in what we do, there's trends in visuals, so we're always looking. Our job is to always look, but we're not Town or Us. We can't represent everyone. We never get anything done. So it's just one of those things where, obviously, if we see something that we think, oh, we need that, or if we have any further questions, we're checking out the referral or, doing a little research on people. But we're pretty much going to get back to you in a short amount of time because we also know that there's competition. So we're not going to sit there and say, I'll wait 4 weeks to call you and expect that if you're good, you're going to be still available. We're going to jump in and just go, hey, when can you come in and meet?
It's also why we can't get on the phone with you. I mean, I can't tell you the arguments I've had with actors. They're like, yeah, well, thank you, but I'm not really interested. Well, why? You haven't even met me. Like, okay, if I met you, I then have to meet everybody, and then I would have no time to represent the people that I actually represent. And there's a reason we go through those pictures and we pick those people that we feel are right. Doesn't mean we're not wrong. We're wrong, sure. I've been doing this 25 years, meeting 2 people a day for 25 years. So there's not a restaurant in LA I can eat in without some waiter spitting in my food somewhere because I turn them down. But the people that I represent a small portion of those people. I one time got into this argument with somebody on Twitter. Yes, it was a Twitter argument. Stupid, I know, sir. You don't have to look at me like that. It was stupid. But I said, fine, I will meet 30 people. I will meet one person a day, and I will pick them randomly. So without any pre-screening. And then I'll report back on what happens. One person came in with his resume written on a piece of notebook paper that had been torn out of the binder. I swear to God. I don't make anything up. Anything you see on my Twitter is not made up. It is all truthful. I do not lie. Literally, the little white things were falling into my lap. And that's why we can't meet you just because you sent your picture.
So, Mark, let me ask you then. So, there's probably a fine line between having the requisite amount of self-confidence that you need to impress an agent and having that bleed over into arrogance, right?
Yes, and I also think it's not going to happen in that getting in to see me phase. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen when you're in the room. That's when I need you to be yourself and not show up in a suit if you're not used to wearing a suit. Or, I've gotten crap over the years because if I turn to your resume, if I look at your resume, it's going badly. Okay, just so you know. Meeting is going badly because I don't really care what's on your resume. I want to talk to you, and I want to know who you are, and I want to know your personality. Every one of you in this room, and watching at home, if I give you a script, I assume you'll read the words right. You're trained actors. That's your job. The way you get a job is because you make it your own. So I want to see you and who you are when I'm sitting in a room with you. I don't want to say, so, and you did Streetcar Named Desire. Oh, okay. Did you like working in Florida? Who cares? Snooze fast. So just so you know, if you ever meet me and I go to your resume, it's over, done. Drop the mic, leave.
So, let's talk about, let's say I'm just starting in the business, and obviously there are a lot of those performers in Los Angeles, particularly. They come here because it's a mecca for the entertainment industry. Say I don't have a professional resume, or I don't have a wow headshot. Are those things that I should work on before coming to you, or should I have just the faith that you will see through my Polaroid amateur snapshot and then guide me towards the right photographer? Because if I go out and spend $300 to get pictures done, or I have someone do a reel for me, and it's not the way that you see me in the marketplace and ability to sell me in the marketplace, then I've got to do that all over again. So actors are sort of torn. How much should they invest before they meet with you, and how much will you be guiding them through their career? So maybe can the panel address that?
I think for our agency, it depends on the agency and it depends on your look. Our agency, we specialize in very unique, cutting-edge people. So for us, if they have the right look, we will probably bring them in, whether or not the photo's on a gum wrapper or a professional headshot. And sometimes for us, it's even more appealing, because it's like, oh, kind of edgy, like they said, maybe their Facebook page or their Instagram, and it's very street, it's very real. So that might work for us. It might not work for Mark.
I would look at the gum wrapper.
So yeah, I think it depends, but it is a catch-22 for actors. Should I do headshots and then you need to reshoot, basically.
You're competing in the #1 market in the country. If your tools are crappy, you're not going to work. You need a headshot, a resume. I don't necessarily suggest a reel, because I don't need to see you, if you don't have work, I don't need to see the student film you did, or, the one waiter thing where you brought in the Coke to Sandra Bullock. That's not work. You know what I mean? That I'm going to be able to look at. It's work and it's paid your bills, and I get that. But you need to have the right tools. And there are great photographers in this town. I can identify 90% of the photographers from the headshots that come across my desk. And you need those tools to get you in the door. It's just like doing voiceover. And if you're recording on your iPhone at home, with construction outside and the guy with the leaf blower, and it sounds like crap, that's not professional. If you want to work as a professional, you need to have professional tools.
Yeah, we're having a conversation in Screen Actors Guild AFTRA. I believe that if you made it into this room already, you do need to be at that level by now, where you really have to have the tools to get in the door and catch the attraction of an agent that you want to be with or be represented by. So it's really, really important that you have to have the resources. I don't care. You have to come trained before you do all of that. There's a lot of people that come into town that they don't even know where the 405 is. You need to get to Santa Monica. You need to get to all these different places in Los Angeles. And I'm being a little sarcastic, but it's true. You need to understand the business. This is a business. So if you've reached the level of the union already, then you need to pick up the speed. You really need to invest in your career, but most of all, you need the training. Why? Because you just don't get a job by showing up. Very few do.
Unless you're 18 and pretty.
Exactly. But if you really, really want to make a difference, you have to have that spectacular presentation to attract the attention of a business professional. And we're going to make you do it all over again. So you have to have those resources to do it all over again with that new team. Because no matter where you go, that new team is going to require that from you, no matter what. So we're not going to fool around here about having that little piece of paper or picture on something or other. No, you have to be real. You have to be honest, and you have to go out there, and you have to be authentic. Because if not, somebody else is just going to beat you to it.
I don't necessarily agree that any team's going to make you change it, however. I mean, if your tools are good, then your tools are good. And an agency should be able to use them. Maybe not, and maybe they do need to be changed in some way, or you see yourself differently, but I don't want you to think, oh, I'm gonna go out and invest in all this, and then somebody's gonna make me change. I mean, I've certainly have had actors come in and their tools have been perfectly fine, and we've been able to use them.
True.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And also, when I'm saying, I'm talking initially if I'm going to bring someone in. When I bring them in, one of the main things I'm looking for is what is their level of commitment as far as taking a commercial workshop, getting the right photos, and do they have the resources to do these minimum things that I'm going to need them to do before I start sending them on jobs. So it's not that I'm going to use the gum wrapper the whole time I represent you.
And I think one important part is really know which divisions you're submitting to. There's nothing more tragic than if we get a generic email or generic message that just says, hey, I'm looking for representation. If you submit to our agency or any agency that has multiple departments, number one, no one knows where to start. So if your materials are just random as well, then we have no idea which division you're interested in. And depending on your resume, we're already judging whether we think you have a clue or you don't. So you being the most prepared when you're actually approaching us gives us a better understanding that you've done research, that you've asked the right questions, that you know which agencies that you actually really think you're suited for, and that we can see that you've done that. When you submit a snapshot to a theatrical agent with no resume, that's embarrassing. You know, you're not going to get arrested. You know, they're just going to throw it away so
Well, it
quickly.
depends on the Polaroid.
Okay.
You could get arrested.
Maybe, you know, but I mean, for the most part, we like to see that you're bringing your best foot forward. Now, granted, I'm not going to lie, in our modeling divisions, we've signed some people, well, wanted to see them based on a snapshot, because if they gave us the right snapshots that showed us how photographic they were, then we go, wow, let's meet that person. That's that medium. But to expect that a snapshot or something that doesn't best reflect what you look like currently is going to be the most effective for acting is just not helping yourself.
So, Angela, let me just build on something you said earlier about doing your homework before you submit. So, if we're talking about, you know, the era of digital photography, obviously, isn't it also in the best interest of the performer to do their work on the photographer that they hire?
Most definitely.
You know, if the deal sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and you're not going to find photos in your portfolio that are really going to sell you the best way. You really need to invest in that opportunity. And if you have a qualified photographer, then you have a reservoir that you can go back and you can look at as an agent and say, no, this look is actually better for you. I can sell you with that.
Most definitely. And also, one good point is, as Mark was saying, phoning a friend. You know, this is a great opportunity for you to use the resources you have. So if you know different people who have great headshots that are helping them get out all the time, who do they shoot with? You know, I mean, there's so much information between the internet and networking that even when there's so many options out there, you can help narrow the scope of the style of person you are, the looks and the roles that you should be getting. You have to make it an easy fix. You can't try to look like the fashion model when you're 5'2", and you're more of a character look. You have to make sure that your pictures reflect the types of roles you should be getting in every day, all day. Because when we see that even in your pictures, along with your submission, we're inspired. We're like, oh, wow, I need a girl who can play that type. I need a guy who's a great leading man. And the things that make it easier for us to go, I want to meet this person and be more interested in them, as opposed to, who is this? And they're clueless, and they don't even look like they understand who their types are. Even in the visuals, you're not going to get in the door.
Here's my mind-blowing tip for headshot photographers. Headshot photographers have created a business in which they can crank out their 5 sessions in a day and make you look exactly like their pictures look. So you should go home, find the best picture of yourself you've ever taken or that you love. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, your brother took it, it's sitting on the mantle at home with your mom and dad. Take it to a photographer and say, this is what I want to look like. And if you can't make me look like this, I don't want you to take my picture. Because photographers have found a way to get their 5 sessions in and crank out their money and make you look exactly like everybody else in their headshots. That's why I can look at a picture and go, oh, that's Bader Howard. Oh, that's Theo and Juliet. Oh, that's Kevin Major Howard. I stopped using Kevin Major Howard at one point because his heads were cut off in every picture. But they all look alike.
Well, it's a look.
It is a look, absolutely, and I've tried to do it. So that's my little tip that you guys get and people watching at home. That, you know, so you can look at that book and say, I really like their style, but make them work outside their style. Find a photographer that's going to take a picture of you that's going to capture who you are, not capture what they shoot.
You can applaud that. That's good.
Applaud me. I'll take it.
Trust me, he loves applause. So, do you all have any hard and fast rules about resumes? I get a lot of calls from performers.
You should have one.
Right. I get a lot of calls from performers about, what should I put on my resume? The hard and fast rule that I usually give them is don't lie, because if you lie, you will be caught.
It's a good start.
Don't exaggerate your skills, because if you embarrass your agent on a shoot, that's going to be problematic for you. But do you guys have any advice about how to prepare the best possible resume, particularly if you don't have a lot of credits, or if you just have theater credits, or what are your
Why do you
what are
say
your
just
recommendations?
have theater credits?
Well, if you're working in the TV, theatrical, or commercial realm, which you all are, you like to have those credits. But if a performer is primarily, for example, an equity performer,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Right.
we certainly have very talented equity performers who we put to work in
I'm
film
not
and TV.
slagging our
You
hosts,
kind of
Mark.
were.
I
You
really
kind
am
of
not.
were. And I have to stand up for the British.
The British are taking over.
Oh, no,
So
we took care of
tired.
that a few years ago.
So tired. You know what I mean. So do you guys have any hard and fast rules about resumes?
I mean, we know how to read your resume.
Right.
So if you have 5 network shows because you were an extra and your resume isn't SAG-AFTRA, we know you're an extra. We've all been doing this a long time. So either put extra or, we know, we can look at that and see. I think every agency, though, has its own method of what it wants its resumes to ultimately look like.
Right.
And so I think that's really an individual question.
But I think we're talking to them without representation here. So when you're looking for an agent, your resume is going to look different than when you are signed to the agency to represent the agency in that manner. But when you're looking for an agent, sure, all of the training is really, really important on your resume. A clean resume, to me, is better than one that has 10 million independent films that I've never heard of or never seen. And then you go on IMDb and there's 2 credits. You're like, okay. So I think your resume should represent your IMDb page now. That is probably the most accessible thing that we can compare your profession to when we're looking you up if we are interested in who you are. So it should represent that area. It should also give us, any other information that you want us to go to look up anything that you want us to see. But then it's going to change when you sign to the agency, and the logo and whatnot goes with that. But training to me is really, really important, because I want to know that my actor has trained for a period of time, not just a workshop, or list the workshops of casting directors that you've done. That doesn't impress me, because most of the casting directors weren't there. And probably was their assistant or somebody else who just got to LA 6 months ago.
Does that apply to classes as well?
Yeah, I mean, a class is really important.
Okay.
One, class is so important. Who did you study with? How long did you study? Are you still studying? To me, study is a journey that never ends. And an actor should always be in a class, so that should be reflected on your resume.
I refer to Hollywood as the Olympics of acting. So when you look at the Olympics, it's the most competitive games that you'll ever see in the world. And Hollywood is no different. There's people weighing in from all these other countries. Some of them are celebrities in their previous countries, and then there's people that you've been growing up watching since they were 2, and now they're 30 and they're competing against you. So it's all about putting your best foot forward. It's always about making sure you're not falsifying the information, but just in general, you want to make sure that you're distinct, but that you're putting your best work on there. You're putting your best training on there, and don't look at it like I did that one thing 6 years ago and that's still good enough, because an Olympian doesn't train one time and then get to the Olympics. An Olympian is training regularly, and then when they get on that line, they have the confidence and the skill to actually win. So you have to look at your training like that. You have to, get with agencies who understand that, and at times can give you some perspective if you're not sure who to train with. But when you're not training, there's someone who's hungry. When you're not training, there's someone who's killing it. And I always tell people, reality is, when you're phoning it in, there's someone who's running you down in that audition. There's someone that the cast director can't wait to show up, because those people make them look good. Those people help them do their job well. You want to be that person. You want to be that person that when they're trained, the casting director walks you into the casting office. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad you came. Blah, 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 blah. If you audition enough in this town, you will see that. And why is that? Because they're damn good. They're not just good. So your training to us, it matters because it shows us how serious you are. It showed us how competitive you can be right now.
Yeah, and well, for our agency, like I said, we're a commercial agency, and we are very open to entry-level performers. So I honestly won't even go to your IMDb. So, if you don't have a lot of experience, honesty is the best policy. And what I'm looking for in a resume that doesn't maybe have guest star roles or, feature films, I'm looking for training, obviously. Training, and comedy, because, comedy and improv. I'm a commercial agent, so I need people that have comedy and improv. So if I see like a nice comedy, good improv, and, a lot of groundlings and all that, I'm, pretty happy with that. So just put what you have. Don't make stuff up and student films and, have the comedy and the training, and that's good. And your special skills. It's good.
So Mark alluded to earlier about not needing to see an actor's reel right away. I'm wondering if you all sort of share that, or is that something that you want to see in the initial communication with you? Do you want to, if it's a professional reel, obviously, do you want to see that right away, or do you want to have the opportunity to ask for it?
Give me all you got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I like
truthfully, every agent has their own style. Every department has their own niches at times, even within different agencies. And at the end of the day, they may think this is amazing. I need a guy who could be more dramatic and then be funny. I need a guy who's hysterically funny. And sometimes, honestly, it's a great cheat to what you really look like when your pictures may be when we're not 100% of what do you really look like and we're basing it just on picture. When we see those links, we're able to go, oh, wow, way more photogenic than I thought, or wow, way younger than I thought, or way older. It gives us a true essence of what you look like on camera, which is what we're selling. So for us, I'd rather have the option of viewing it than just be guessing just on picture alone.
Plus, for voiceover, you get to hear language skills, accents.
Having been a voiceover agent for 10 years, I'll tell you, as far as I'm concerned, the only time you're going to use your reel is to get an agent, and it shouldn't be full of that crap.
Okay.
It really needs to be your money voice. So if you've got a voice, and I don't need to hear that you can do funny voices and you can do accents and all that, because that's not what will book you jobs. What will book you jobs is your money voice. That voice you have that is yours and is your authentic voice. That's what will make you work.
So just put it in your skills section.
Right,
and
once
leave it
people
at
start
that.
hiring you, then
Right.
they'll branch out and maybe give you a job and go, you know what, I really like so-and-so sound, I wonder if he can do an English accent, whatever it is. But I'm telling you, when you send me those reels full of crap, I mean, no, really, it's like nails on a chalkboard, because as soon as that first one, you come on, you go, new Toyota, it's a great ride. And then there's I'm like, oh, crap. And then, well, matey, here's, and I'm like, all right. Delete.
That is not a reflection on our UK hosts
Delete.
at all.
That was,
let that go.
that was a pirate. That was
I'm
not
sorry, okay.
English at all. But I do think a few of our UK hosts are doing a fake accent. Just between you, me, and all the people back home. They're back there, have a nibble.
I like the reel because it's a really good indication of what kind of judgment you have. And so you need to make sure that the reel is really good. Sometimes I'll be watching a reel, I'm like, oh, it's a good clip. Oh, there's a great Dorito spot. Oh, he's so marketable. And then the last one is so horrible, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not bringing this guy in. There's no way. So it all has to be like 100% quality. And it's just a really good indication of what kind of judgment you have. Like if you put something really crappy on your reel, then I know you don't have good judgment, and then I might not want to work with you.
And remember, that's a commercial reel.
Yeah, I'm like,
Right.
No, but I mean, we've done it theatrically too. People, they were, NYPD tore through a ton of actors in this town. And we used to watch people's tapes and go, God, Dennis Franz was so good. Yeah, swear to God, be careful. Be
You
careful.
have to be careful.
Because you think, oh, I seen with Dennis Franz, and he just eats you alive. And I can't tell you how many times we sat in a room and went, wow. We were watching a tape one time, we didn't even know what the show was, like, that girl's good in this. Who is that girl? Selena Gomez. Like, that girl's a star. I still don't remember who the guy was. Like, that girl's a star. Who's she with? She must be nowhere. CAA. Dante's Rings of Hell.
Yeah. On the reel, don't try to tell a story, because so many people do. And sometimes you put the old stuff and so on, you see the age process. So you don't want to see that. So you really want to make sure that it's current
Fresh.
and fresh and quick.
Unless you were
And that's
making out with
it.
Corey on Boy Meets World and it's a joke, don't put it on the reel.
So Jaime alluded to earlier about how there's a there's an expectation that happens when you do get an agent, right? Your logo, you're saying your logo goes on the resume. I'd like each of you, because this is a sort of selfish question. I get a lot of actors who call me and say, I've been signed with my agent for 2 weeks, nothing has happened. How do I get out of this contract?
Call me, I'll let you out.
Right.
Ciao.
So I'm wondering if you can talk about how the marketplace actually works in reality, and how, I think, the fact that you've secured an agent on Tuesday doesn't mean you're going to be working on Wednesday necessarily. It's great if it does
It
happen.
often does.
It does happen, but there are also many instances, perhaps many more instances, where you need to build a relationship with that performer and figure out how best to represent them. So can you talk about what are reasonable and unreasonable expectations about going out if you're an actor that has just been signed with you?
Well, number one, do not forget that agents are paid pit bulls. So choose your words wisely. If, I always say that know that you have your proper starter kit. If you're signed with an agent, between the assistant and the agent, you should know that you have all the materials and all the things set up online, not online, hard copy, resume, all these things. They should have some kind of information to tell you, I'm expecting all these things to happen. So number one, you want to make sure that whatever information they need from you, that you provided it. Because there's times where we'll send a starter email, and the starter email may have very specifics based on that meeting with you, what we think is missing. Hey, you said you had other images, I would like to see other images from that shoot. If you never follow up with that link, if you never follow up with that disc, how stuck are we? Because at the end of the day, even if we feel like there's other pictures that we like, if you never show them to us, we're not going to sit there and waste our time clicking on something that we don't believe is going to help you get out. First impression does matter at times when you're trying to be competitive even within a department. So we may go, these pictures don't play you this way, I'd love to see other things, and then you never followed up. If we said, hey, what happened to all these other images that we chose that we want online, or we want hard copies, you said you were going to drop them off. All these things either help us get a good head start in the relationship, or we're stagnant, and we're going, well, what happened to the other things that you said you were going to do, and we're sort of stuck. So just know that that the agents have all the materials they need so that they can just hit the ground running. That's important just from the beginning.
Yeah, it's another agency per agency question. I think each agency probably has their own process in getting started and how quickly your materials get up. And it's a lot easier now with the internet because we can just call Breakdown Service and say, hey, transfer so-and-so's picture to our account. And as far as the getting out question goes, Robin alluding to sometimes people work very quickly, and that's because generally there's a honeymoon period. You're the first person on our mind. When we're talking to casting, we're like, oh, we just signed this tiny, and we're very excited, just like you are to have the agent. So there may be a flurry of activity, and then it probably will taper off because we represent X number of people in any given division, and we can't sell all of them every day, all the time. You have to sell the best people that are right. Now, what's the best thing you could do is when you go in the room, make fans. And that's all you're ever doing, by the way, people, is making fans. Right? Your job is to audition. If you do it right, every now and then they let you go to set and eat craft services. But otherwise, your job is to audition. Right? You work one day on a commercial, you make $20,000. People, oh, I made $20,000 in one day. No, what about the 50 days before that where you ran around all over town and changed clothes in the back of your car and didn't get things and, were treated like crap by casting associates? And,
That was the 80s.
But that's, your job is to audition. So go out there and make fans. And then it makes our job easier and it keeps that honeymoon period alive because people will start calling you in on your own at that point. They'll see your picture and click on it and give us the time. And then we don't have to call. So there's always that period, I think, and then kind of.
Well, I disagree on the honeymoon as far as me and the actor. I feel like I maintain my honeymoon with all my actors pretty much all the time.
You must be exhausted.
I'm a commercial agent. I go on LA Casting, I click on photos, I submit them. It's that simple. People get called out. I have good people. The honeymoon that you have to watch out for is your honeymoon with the casting director. So, I don't even like sending people out that haven't taken good commercial workshops because, you're going to have a lot of activity in the beginning because every casting director is going to be like, oh my God, Lemon Lime has this great new person. And then that great new person gets in the room and they have no idea what they're doing. And guess what? You're never going to get called in again. So you might have a lot of activity in the beginning and then all of a sudden it's going to die because you didn't deliver. So just make sure that you have the tools before you go in the room because you are going to get called out a lot in the beginning because you're new and fresh and you're with the right agency.
And you do have to understand the distinction between prepping everything up for commercials and then prepping things up for theatrical. In the theatrical area, we still do require hard copies. So a lot of times people, have a lot of traffic in commercial work, and then they get that opportunity with that theatrical agent. You have to change hats because it's a different hat. It's a different approach. It's a different way of preparing yourself for the audition as well as the business aspect of it.
And it's a different number.
Exactly.
different numbers game.
Completely different number because in commercials, it's a lot more traffic. They want new faces, all that stuff. The training is different. Not to say that it's not at that other level, but it's very, very different. So you have to be ready for that so that you do jumpstart that whatever we need from you immediately so that we don't lose track and that we can keep you busy.
And then call Zeno and ask how you can get out of your contract.
Thank you for that. I want to jump on that to say what I would say to an actor who feels as though there's a frustration that occurs with an agent who has represented them diligently and in good faith and passionately, but for whatever reason there appears to be a level of frustration with that agent. My first response is, have you spoken to that agent about your frustration? You would be surprised at how many performers are scared to even have that discussion,
No,
which is to their detriment.
We do understand that,
Yeah.
and I always say, and I know that I'm in the negative because agents say, "Oh, we're a team," and all this. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I work for you. I take 10% of your hard-earned money, or I let you keep 90% of my hard-earned money. But it's just perspective. But we work for you. So if you have a problem, you should be able to call us and say, I've got a problem. But the flip side of that coin is, have you looked in the mirror? You can't fire yourself. So the first person you turn to, well, my agent sucks. Well, or I get the call, all my friends are going in on such and such. I'm like, well, why don't you get some of the stuff I send you on? And then we can talk about you wanting to get on the stuff your friends are getting in on. Right? So a lot of times, actors don't look in the mirror and say, what can I do? Talking to your agent. Are my headshots not working? Are the classes not working? Where am I at compared to what I want to get in on? I had an actor call me and he really wants to get in on this Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington is going to direct August Wilson's canon of movies. And he wants to get in. And I'm like, I get that you want to get in. But these are words that every African-American actor wants to say. You are going to compete against stars of every level, and you want this particular role. Look in the mirror. You have to be realistic. I'll help you. I'll fight as hard as I can, but you need to be realistic to what the outcome might be and what you're bringing to the table. I get it all the time. Well, I've done these 2 co-star roles. Well, and this goes back to kind of, when you're talking about the theatrical side, doing your homework, we don't really represent co-star actors. So sending me your resume with 3 co-stars doesn't help me. We represent guest star actors. We represent actors who occur on series. We represent series regulars. That's who we represent. We got out of the co-star business 3 years ago.
So who's August Wilson? I know I get a laugh, but there's probably quite a few people that may not know who he is. That's the first thing you have to find out. Who he is, what his work is like, and do you fit in the casting? Because if you don't fit in the casting, then don't worry about it. Move on and go on to something else. That's what happens a lot of times to an actor, is they want to do that show. They want to be in that. But guess what? You don't fit in. If you don't fit in, there's not going to be a role right for you for that particular project. So you have to be aware of the project. You have to be aware of the director. You have to be aware of the writer in order for you to understand that. That's a dialogue I like to have with my actor. And a lot of times if my actor doesn't feel the energy, or I don't feel the energy, it's time for you to reach out to me because it's all about energy. So a lot of times when you feel negative and you don't feel liked and you feel like nobody's paying attention to you, you have to fix it. So you need to reach out. You need to do something.
We can't care more than you do.
Exactly.
It's your career. And I
Yes.
think one of the biggest things that as an agency that we're always frustrated in is sometimes when we don't hear from you and we know that something's not quite right, we're frustrated with the fact that we haven't heard from you. We're like, do they even care? You know, do they really want to do this? Because, I mean, you have to remember, we're juggling a variety of people, but we have to know that you give a crap. But just always, I think one of the biggest misunderstandings about agents as a whole is that if you don't hear from us, you assume that we're not thinking of you. You assume that we're not trying to figure you out. Because even within our office, we could share various clients from various departments, and we could be having whole conversations about you, and you don't know it because we're literally trying to figure you out from department to department. Wow, they're doing amazing over here, but how are they doing for you? Like, are they getting callbacks? Are they going to producers? Or how are they doing for you? They seem to be struggling, or, oh, they're knocking out the park for me. I'm trying to figure them out. Do you submit them for this age, or blah, blah, blah? We're at times having these conversations. We just hadn't got a chance to reach out to you yet, or you're sort of mulling in the back of our heads because we want to try to do a good job for you. That's why we signed you, because we want to be on the team with you, but always come from the place of, hey, do you need anything from me? Have you, is there anything missing? Because there's times where we have an aha and we're like, oh my gosh, maybe we should be playing them a little older. Or, we will ask you a series of questions of how it is in the room, or, because it's a visual game as well as an actual acting game. So, come from the place of trying to work with us, and we're going to work with you. But just instead of, well, I haven't heard from you in 3 months, and I'm not getting out, and blah, 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 and just assume that we hate you
You're
and miss
not
you.
submitting me. Why are you not submitting me?
Thank you, we
And
could
that's
submit
the one
you 1,000
time
times.
when you get that one audition and you're not available because you hadn't heard from us in a long time. And it's
I
like,
didn't think I had to book out.
exactly. I didn't think I had to book out because I hadn't heard from you and yada, yada. And then it's disappointing to you. And of course, it's disappointing to us as well.
I have to be home. They're delivering the band T-shirts.
Yeah.
My neighbor's cat needs a CAT scan. I'm going to drive her. My dad is coming in from the airport, and I have to pick him up. Because there's no cabs in LA.
Uber.
These are all excuses that I've had from actors to not go on auditions.
Insane.
Waiting for the band T-shirts.
the
None of the other illustrated men in the band could wait for the T-shirts. You had to be the guy.
well, I'm trustworthy that way.
Let the barista wait for the fucking T-shirts.
What I say to performers who call me is that the agent-actor relationship is the most intimate business relationship that you have. You cannot assume that they can read your mind when you're frustrated. You can't just sit there. It's not acceptable to sit there and stew in your own juices if you're unhappy. And it doesn't give them the credit that they deserve when they don't know that you're frustrated. You need to have the discussion with them. Tone is important, obviously, but if you're frustrated and you feel like our relationship is not on the track that I want it to be, they are owed that respect because they're also working for you. They're owed that respect to fix the problem if they can, and they will be honest with you about what they perceive to be the issues that you need to work on, and you can talk to them about the issues that you want them to work on. It's a dialogue. So don't be afraid to have an honest and truthful conversation with your agent. That's what they're there for. They're there to do the best work for you. They get paid when you get paid. They want you to work. They want you to succeed. And a lot of performers that I speak with, and I'm sorry, I'm not part of the panel, but I just...
You go. Can we go get something to eat?
A lot of performers I speak with forget that it's a team effort, and you really need to cooperate and communicate to be an effective team.
But don't even think about having that conversation if you haven't done every single thing that the agent told you to do when you signed with the agency. If you haven't gotten the right photos, if you haven't uploaded the right photos, if you haven't got the resume, if you haven't done the workshop, if you haven't done that, don't even think about calling me.
Preach.
Okay.
So,
That's it. Amen.
Mark made a reference earlier about making fans when you go out on these auditions, and there's more than a couple of questions about what's the level of professionalism that I need to exhibit when I go out on these jobs. Do you guys have hard and set rules about being on time, I'm assuming, be polite or whatever? I know it sounds elementary.
No, don't worry about that.
No, I mean, I know it sounds
No.
elementary, but
It's go.
What?
No,
Not
ish.
whenever.
Ish.
I mean,
Is there a window? Get that question all the time. No, do you want me to just
Yeah,
want
jump
me
out
just
of it.
want me to just cancel you? Oh no, I'll go. I'll make it. It's the best answer ever. Should I just cancel you? No, I'm gonna go.
And casting directors will just straight up cancel. I mean, sometimes I ask for a window because my client has 2 callbacks at the same time, and the casting director will sometimes just straight up cancel them. And then we have to call and beg to get them back in. So only ask if you really, really need it, because they might just cancel you.
But the answer to your question is show up, do your job, and get out of the room. You know, I had a casting director call me once and goes, hey, so-and-so, she's a lurker. And I had to fight twice as hard to get her back in the door because she'd hang out and she'd go from casting director to commercial facility with her, like 3 or 4. She'd hang out thinking, oh, I'm right for that. And she'd stand in the doorway. And I'm like, stop
In and out.
lurking. Go in, do your job. It's sort of like the drop off. They tell you, don't drop off pictures, at casting directors, right? Casting directors have made this rule because they don't want you to come into their office, right? Rule only benefits them, it doesn't benefit you, right? Go, drop off your picture quickly, and walk back to your car slowly. Because the casting director might walk out and go, that girl's right, where's she? Oh, she just walked out. And they'll chase you down the street. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Go in, do your work, and then leave. But leave, don't lurk. But leave slow enough that maybe somebody might go, oh, can you come in on this? Do you have a conflict with Toyota? And do it that way. But that's, basically it. It's sort of like the relationship with your agent, relationship with casting directors. If everyone's doing their job right, it will come naturally. People always say, well, how do I get a relationship with you?
That's one of my questions, actually, right here.
Tinder?
Right, Twitter, right.
No, Tinder.
Follow me on Twitter for mundane advice, @commieagent.com. But if we're doing our job right, you're hearing from us. We're giving you auditions. You're doing your job right. We're calling you to put you on hold. We're calling you to book the job. We're calling you to find out how it went. You're sending us the relationship will develop. Same with a casting director. The more you go in and see a casting director, as Angela said, they'll be like, oh, thanks for coming. There'll be kisses. Everyone in the lobby will be intimidated by you. It'll be great.
Yeah, just go in and do a good job and act like a normal person. Like, it's that simple. Don't act like a weirdo.
Right.
It's not a comedy
Unless the
routine when you
It's a
go.
room
for
full
it.
of actors.
But it's being professional. And I think that new media and the social media and all that's gotten out of control with everybody being liked.
Hey.
He is out.
Watch
Being
it.
liked. Being liked. Like me. Oh! And you go into the room and you ask silly questions, you linger. There's a story of a friend of mine. She's an executive producer. They're in the room. They're in a hurry. They only have 45 minutes to do these callbacks for producer session for their show. And they love this woman. And she goes into the room and she does a great job. And they're all like sort of shaking heads like they're all in agreement. And then one person says, I really liked your dress. And then it became all about the dress. And she just like, well, my grandma got it. And it's a clan and da-da-da-da. And it just became that. She leaves. The executive
crazy.
producer
She's
looks
crazy.
at the casting director and says, for 1 year, don't bring her back.
Oh, that's harsh. I actually have actors call me and go, yeah, I talked myself out of that one. Like,
You know?
Way to
So
go.
that's the syndrome of being liked. Don't be liked. Go in there and kick ass and do a really good job.
but it's your time. So take your time. Do what you need to do. Don't let somebody rush you if you need a minute. Find out what how you're framed up. Ask the questions you need to ask. This is your shot to go get that job, be it a commercial, theatrical job, whatever it is. It's your moment. Take that time. It's your chance to make 20 grand in one day. So take your time. But
Don't talk about the dress.
right, don't talk about the dress. And it's not about connecting with every single person in the room and making sure you know everybody and you've looked at every single person and they just do your job and get out.
And funny enough, we love to develop, and that was one of the jokes. We figured out a long time ago, like, how do some people make the most money, and how do some people work the most? And I've asked 1 trillion actors over the years, as the light bulb goes off, what are you doing now that you weren't doing before? They stopped being freaking needy. They started being confident in who they are. They were trained. They went in there. They had a good time. They were professional. But like they said, it didn't linger. And the casting director was like, wow, I love them, or wow, I love working with them. Because you have to remember, sometimes we get more feedback on one person or another, But there's so many casting offices, particularly back in the day when they used to call us, instead of email, but they used to say those kind of comments like, oh my gosh, we love them, they just went a different direction, or wow, they did such a great job, but they just changed the demographic. But you just be your best self. That is your best thing that
Unless
they're
it's
gonna love.
commercially, then you don't get feedback. So
Thank you.
don't start calling your commercial agents going, can I get
Don't
feedback?
When there's
Feedback is you didn't
feedback,
get the
we'll
job.
give it to you.
Callback is your feedback. Your job, honestly, is to get callbacks. You, in this competitive town, will not book everything you touch. But I can guarantee you, the people who make the most money.
And if you do, my number
Get
is
a lot.
818-769.
But seriously, if you get a lot of callbacks, if you get more callbacks than not, then you are in more control of your craft. And those casting directors, the people who are always on that short list, that's the people they remember.
And we know who they are, actually.
Thank
I
you.
can get a list of callbacks, and I'll go, well, wait, where's Robin's callback? And they're like, oh, yeah, no, here it is, I missed it. Because I know which actors on my list work, which ones get a higher callback percentage than others. There's some actors out there that are getting 90, 95% callback ratio. They just know what to do when they go in the room. I don't know what it is. If I knew what it was, I'd put it in a bottle and I'd sell it at San French, and then I would have a penthouse in the SAG building.
So,
Which is quite
Swanky
lovely.
up there, by the
so
way.
Angela, let me ask you a question. So, the size of the LA market is very, very large, obviously. There are many actors competing for just a handful of roles, it feels like in some cases. But isn't it also true that it's an incredibly small market? So if you, as a performer, do something that does not look as professional as your agent would have hoped it would look, you're going to have difficulty getting that performer back in, right? And these are
Yes.
things that you must review with the actor when you bring them on about what you expect of them as one of your clients.
Or just try to bring on people that have common sense.
Yeah.
It's about going in the room,
We
doing your
hope you
job,
have
and getting
common
out.
sense.
Right.
Yeah, we hope you have common sense when we sign you, but there is that fine line where there's casting directors who they will shy away from you, or you blowing off their callback and waiting to the last minute. All this unprofessional behavior that is subject to happen. There's people who take that personally because there's times where maybe the director really loved you or the client, you were their first choice, and then your lack of professionalism just puts them in a bind, where they already had a small callback and then you didn't show up or you were completely late and they had to catch a flight, and then the casting director's looking at us like, you have no idea what's going on with your talent. I don't want to see them. You can't even hardly pitch them in the door for the next thing that you may be perfect for, based on the fact that they can't get that out of their heads that you burned them. You made them look bad. We always say we're the middleman, and our job is to help you look good and to make sure that you're getting in the rooms that you're supposed to get in. But you wedge your foot in the door with that performance. You wedge your foot in the door with your professionalism and making their job easier. But when you do, unprofessional things and you're arguing with the session runner about, what roles you think you should be going in for
The
and all these
session
types
runner
of
that's
things.
going to end up getting the job.
Thank you. Very good point. Then you're not helping yourself because these casting directors are watching you from the minute you walk in that room, and they're also watching the agencies you're with. And at times we've had it where they were very angry by one client, and which made it difficult for maybe sometimes a roster, depending on how bad that you made them look that day. So you being a professional and you communicating is very important because it's hard for people to not take their work personally at times when their own butt is on the line. There's not the obscene amount of volume that this town used to have years ago. So every job matters. So if you're going to show up, show up. If you're going to be professional and act like every audition matters. Don't blow it off. Don't phone it in. Then, if you're not going to go and show up with your best you, then you're not making that roster look good. You're not making you look good. You're not making that agency look good. So you're going in with the mindset of, I'm rocking it for the team. I'm rocking it for myself and the team.
Right. So there are more than a couple of questions about paid workshops. So are they evil or just a necessary evil? Is it worth the sometimes significant investment to get yourself in front of a casting professional for 2 to 3 minutes at most? In some cases, and I'm not talking necessarily about the bona fide educational seminars that go on for. What do you guys think of those?
Well, here's one asshole's opinion. If you want to be a co-star actor, then do them. Because when there's the role for the waitress and they get 2,500 submissions, the only way a casting director knows to bring you in over the other 20 1,000 people that have been submitted is because they saw you in a workshop. But your journey to really being a paid working actor, doing the work that you want to do, will not be through paid workshops. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. There are no rules. If there were rules, we'd all follow them, and we'd all be rich, and we'd all be famous, right? There are no rules. Kathy Joosten was a workshop actress who became a recurring character on The West Wing and ended up winning 2 Emmy Awards for Desperate Housewives. And she was a workshop actress. But for the and again, this is one asshole's opinion.
But truthfully, that he's correct. I mean, for the most part, when we look at the lot of your roster that works the most, who gets the most auditions, it's not the person who's really going to the workshop. It's the person who just did great training and the casting director needed them. You want to be needed, you want to be wanted. You want to be memorable. And those people, they're just going to be thinking of them. They're going to be inspired by them. They're going to be writing for them, as opposed to, which one was that? I think he looks sort of familiar.
It is harder to be a co-star than a series lead. It is harder to do those 2 lines that don't mean anything. It really is. And so when you prove to a casting director that you can do it, they don't want to let you do the bigger parts. There's enough people out there with big enough names and enough credits that they'll keep going to. And it will be harder for you to make that push. And, and again, like I say, just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do them, you better be good at it, because they're not just, looking at you for coming into the workshop. It's for executing their whatever they give you as a cold reading. And that's a whole new technique, and that's another technique and another approach. And you have to be good at it. And you have to be good at it with whoever they pair you up with. So, yeah, no. Do
So what-
something
so-
else.
so what-
study at a really good
So what you're saying is
good
it's all
school.
well and good to get in front of one of these casting directors in this format, but if you're not knocking it out of the park,
Don't
then
do
you've-
it.
You've done yourself a disservice by even paying that amount.
And you don't need to keep going back.
No, you don't.
I've
So
heard stories that
there's the
you've
like
been in
me
the same
syndrome
casting director
again.
4 times.
People want to be liked by these
you didn't,
people.
trust me, you didn't get that much better. I don't care who you are.
Nope.
Al Pacino, you didn't get that much better to go see the same casting director 4 times.
Robin, any thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm really, that's mainly
I
a
mean, commercial
theatrical
casting
thing.
directors don't really.
Right.
Yeah, commercials, like you're getting a workshop, and it's more of an educational workshop in the commercial world.
Yeah,
I like
I
to
mean, going to the commercial world, one of the things that the actor really, really has to understand is how to slate. Your slate is your signature, and that's your autograph. Yeah, like this. And but no, truthfully, your slate is really important, and that should be confidence in what you are bringing to that project. And then you go with the theatrical aspect of it. Don't slate like a commercial. Slate like the character,
Right.
if they want you to slate.
You-
You have to do it as a character. Because if you break that character, I don't like that take, and I don't believe it.
No, go into the room, leave the room as the same character. If you're a badass, don't be a badass and then walk out and go, thank you very much, thank
Yeah.
you, so nice to meet you. Don't do it. And the slate, by the way, and this is not to depress the room, the slate commercially is pretty much all they watch. If you think that they sit there and watch your 30-second commercial, all 125 of you, he's good. I like her hair. They're not doing it. They slate and they press a little button and it goes to the next slate. So they're looking for a quality. I had a client for a long time and he would slate and he wasn't working, he couldn't figure out why. And he went to a workshop and the casting director that was running the workshop said, just slate for me. And he went, hey, I'm Tim Ryan, nice to meet you. He thought it was cute, and this big, he looked like a douche,
Yeah.
and nobody would hire.
Yeah, I mean, the commercial workshop is fundamental. I mean, the paid theatrical workshops, I don't know, but if you're going on commercial auditions, it is so valuable, especially if you're a highly trained actor, because commercial auditioning often really doesn't have anything to do with acting. So you really need to have the technical tools,
None of it does, guys. Here's another
the
little
technical
clue.
skills in the
All
room.
you're doing is selling soap. No matter what you do, from a commercial to HBO, it's about selling soap. If you don't get ratings and they can't charge money for commercials, that show will not stay on the air. HBO, if you don't sign up for HBO it doesn't stay on the air. You're just selling soap. And you have to remember, Sheila Manning said to me one time when we were going to close early for the Academy Awards when they used to be on Monday, and she went, "You're not in the show business, you're in the advertising business." And that's what commercials are. You have to figure out how to sell the product.
But isn't that, in a sense, even more difficult?
Absolutely.
Because you have
That's why you need the
15,
workshop.
30 seconds
Absolutely.
to convince someone, rather than having an entire episode of a television show to do it.
Correct.
You have to convince someone that you're earnest, you're honest, this is the product that they need to buy.
Or whatever they happen to be looking for.
Right.
If it's Pepsi and it's fun kids hanging out on the beach and they're watching that tape, probably with the sound down while they're picking colors for the umbrellas and everything else, and the audition is you go in and they like, tell us your worst date. And you stand there and you go, well, I went with this guy and we went to a place. They're watching that. That's what they're seeing. But the commercial is we're animated and we're at the beach. So you need to find that story. So with that, and I went and we were at the basketball game and the guy was shooting, and that's going to make people go, oh. And you're going to get a call back. Because you've given them what they need to sell Pepsi. Not a funny story about your worst date. They could care less. You should have those stories all prepared commercially, by the way.
Quick.
5 stories in your head that no matter what it is, you can get it to be a story about your love of the Lakers, right? That's what you think. Oh, well, what about your worst day? Oh, I took this girl to the Laker game, and we had to sit in the rafting, but you'll shake it, it's dunk, and bam! Right? It doesn't matter. Because then they've seen you, and they go, oh, ooh, what's that? I had a guy who could jump over a chair. He did it every time he could in a slate. Because they would go, what was that? Back that up. Back that up. Did I got to jump over a chair? I represented the elite models for 10 years. Half of them wore bathing suits they knew they'd fall out of. Why? Because they get a call back. Because the ad agency guys wanted to see them fall out of the bathing suit in the room.
And you thought models were dumb.
No, yeah, Tom, they just can't remember their second name. It's like Chanel. But that's because it was about stopping and watching and getting that call back. Because you don't get the job if you don't get back in the room.
But also, when you're in that room, you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're pissed off, and you're angry, and you got to go someplace else. So when you walk in the room, you bring that energy. So you have to check that energy at the door. Because when you go to commercials, a lot of times that's what it is. When you go to callbacks, the conversation is like, oh, there's more people than the first audition. Well, that's what it is. But you got to wait, and you got to wait. And there's rules with Screen Actors Guild. You may get paid during that second callback and then that third callback. So keep track of all of that stuff as well. But check your attitude, because your attitude will book the job.
The only tip I would add to that excellent advice is when you go into a holding area, don't talk to anybody. Don't talk to anybody. You meet a friend, nod, go outside in the hall, run your lines, get yourself together. They will do everything they can, whether it's conscious or unconscious, to make you
screw it up.
Make you
off your
screw up.
game.
Walk
Get you off
out.
your game. Absolutely.
Afterward, go up to them and go, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Let's sit and talk for 20 minutes. Oh, you're up next? Oh, that's too bad. Well, good luck. That you can do. But before you audition, don't talk to anybody.
Oh, absolutely. They'll do everything they can to get you off your game.
Yep. So quite a number of questions about a phenomenon that's occurring particularly in Los Angeles and New York, and that's the procurement of managers. Hiring a manager to either help you get an agent or to assist you in your relationship with your agent if you don't have those communication skills. So how do you all feel about working with managers? Is that something that maybe
I think
not?
we all probably work with managers in some
Okay.
way, shape, or form.
We have.
As a necessary evil. But the question is, what do you have to manage?
Exacto.
And are they worth 15% more of your income? Are they bringing 15% more to the table that it's worth giving, or 10%, so maybe do 10. And I'll tell you this, they can't help you commercially. And they want your commercial money.
I'm not going to start.
That's,
I'm not.
No,
I'm
don't
not
start. Don't start. Don't start. Don't
No, I'd
start.
like you to start. I
Don't
think
start.
they'd like you to start as well.
She'll tear it down. Don't do it. She'll tear it down.
If you have an agent, this is a very good point. If you already have an agent or agents, then don't just run out and sign with some manager without consulting with the team. Ta-da! Because there's nothing more tragic when we actually feel like we have a wonderful working relationship with you, and then you bring on someone on the team that we're not a fan of, that we know don't pull their weight, and that it's a ticking time bomb before you go, why am I paying this extra person, and why don't they let me talk to you, and they're just taking all the calls, and I can't communicate directly with you, and we didn't have a problem with that, I know, but you have to know who you're bringing to the team, and that extra person needs to be worth their money, that extra person needs to be worth actually the agent's time. There's nothing more tragic when you slow an agent who is just like moving a billion miles through their day, and then their manager is calling, asking 1,000 questions because they don't understand.
I don't know. I think like famine and stuff is more tragic.
Okay. Some days, but it's
Well,
it's-
my
it's
sister the other day,
annoying.
my sister the other
It's
day said
annoying.
there's literally the worst thing that ever happened. I'm like, really, worse than the Holocaust. That person's missing a callback that's worse than the Holocaust.
Well, was it a national commercial?
It's literally the worst thing that could happen.
But
I'm half
just don't
Jewish,
waste your time.
relax.
Just
Come
don't
on.
waste your time, because honestly, I've seen how agents and managers not get along, or agents and talent. It's sad when you watch how, I always say, my job is to help you make money. And like, they've said before, we're very motivated to make money because we don't eat till you eat. So we already may have a wonderful plan of how you're going to get out and how you're going to work, and we already know that at times we put all this time and effort and energy into you, and then you bring in a manager who at times did nothing, and then now they're getting a percentage, and then 6 months or a year later, you're mad because you're going, well, why am I paying them, or I don't want to pay them anymore, and then I have some manager calling me going, well, why did they pull my check off though, and why am I not getting the checks directly anymore, and it gets really awkward when maybe you just didn't do your research on why you needed them, and they were really going to help you in your career, because either they're doing that or you're just not ready for them. But at the same time, in the same breath, there's some wonderful managers out there who we've seen actually help the team, and who we've seen help fill in blanks, and maybe your career is taking off and you have all these red carpet things, and and you're shooting over here, and the agent is one person who can't go to every single thing for every talent. A good manager can also be a great helping hand that's helping the team and looking out for the details along with us. So you know that you're getting one of those, and just instead of just getting a manager like it's the new iPhone.
No, it's because people are going to get more auditions. How many of you thought, well, 15% of nothing is nothing, right? I might as well give away another 15% because I'm not making any money now. And maybe they'll get me more auditions. And that's the thought process that actors go through. But if they're not in the business and they're not going to be open doors, what doors are you going to open for me? Who do you know? Who are you going to get me in to see? Because that's the only thing they can do to help us, is help us, when we need an extra phone call made, or we're hitting a brick wall trying to get you in to a casting director, or you've been in on the casting director, now we need somebody to call the producer or the director. I say, are they in the business? It's kind of what I say, Some brilliant managers out there, go to Kinko's. Throw a rock, you'll find 6 or 7. They're printing their cards. But
Literally.
are they in the business? Are they somebody that are going to be able to open doors for you? Are they going to be worth 15% more of your business?
Yeah, they did 6 months in the mailroom at some agency.
I mean, as a commercial agent, I just want the least interference as possible. I'm very focused, and I'm, working on a massive scale with a lot of volume, and I need to be efficient. And if the manager is going to get in my way, then it just bothers
No,
me.
it's no if. It's no
Yeah.
if. They're going to get in our way.
Right.
Commercially, they're going to get in the way.
And then they're not even really doing anything, and then they're getting a higher percentage that I'm getting. I'm the one working my ass off for you, and
Here
they're
she
getting
goes.
15, and I'm only getting 10.
We're not bitter.
I mean, what's up with that?
So this might be a good time to mention that SAG-AFTRA
You're becoming
has-
a manager?
No,
Oh.
no, no. Not enough money. SAG-AFTRA has an affiliated managers program. So our managers are required to work hand in hand under the control of your licensed and franchised talent agents. So if you want a manager that understands the basics of how that relationship is supposed to work, you can also take a look at that list for what it's worth. So I have a couple of questions about pilot season. So Jaime, I'm just going to throw this one for you to start out with. So pilot season traditionally mid-January through April-ish, right? Kind of ends around tax time. My question is, actors get very frenzied around that time, right? And agents are at their peak in terms of being busy during those time periods as well. But is pilot season still as relevant as it was, given the fact that there's a 52-week per year production schedule, and there are so many different platforms where a product is made these days. Is it still the same kind of feeding frenzy as it used to be?
Yeah, it still is. It's tapering down a little bit now. Things are changing. The landscape of pilots is more sort of kind of year-round. Cable has a little bit of a different period, but the norm for the major networks, it's still what you just mentioned as in dates. It also has a lot to do with the level where you're at as an actor. I think that the beginning of pilot season starts with star talent and who's on the list and who's not on that list, right? So they go by the list. They really do. They go by people who've had.
life.
Yeah, this is life. They go by that wonderful list, and now it's a movie star list. So now you have competition with movie stars. But not to discourage anybody, a lot of times when you hang in there and you have less credits, you will probably be seen later on when they got tired of seeing other people, or when they got tired of hearing so much money that these people wanted, so then they go down the list to, people with less requests and that sort of stuff. So a lot of times you have that opportunity to break through that period.
But the reality is, and this, I'm probably going to get a revolt on my hands. Raise your hand if you feel you're ready to carry a series. I guarantee you that you're not. The amount of, and this is why you have to get yourself ready, the amount of pressure on an actor to carry a series. You are working 24 hours a day, you are on camera, you are running to a fitting, you are doing press, you are juggling all of this. And if I look at your resume, and I don't see that you've been a guest star, or you've recurred on something, or you've starred in a Broadway show, something that tells me you can carry that series, it's probably not going to happen for you. And it's not to be depressing, because, look, okay, wait, let me take it back. All those people that raise their hand, how many are British? You guys have a great shot, because that's all we hire. So if you can do an American accent, that's all you need to do right there. So you're already ahead of the game because you have an English accent.
I told you he tells it like it is.
I'm telling you, I thought about one day creating a reality show where I take a kid out of Yale, give him an English accent, and send him through pilot season, and watch the feeding frenzy, even though he's from Carolina. But it's a tremendous amount of pressure. So just like Angela said, when you're preparing for the Olympics, that's the Olympics, right? That's the decathlon. Are you really ready for it? That's what you have to think about. And how do you build to that? How do you get yourself so that there's no question you know what you're doing on set, that you're not holding everybody up because you're having a breakdown in your trailer because you can't believe you've got 3 fittings and 6 radio interviews and you haven't learned the script yet, and what are you going to do? And everyone out there's waiting for you because guess what? Everyone's going to latch on to you because you're the lead.
Stressing me
I
out.
know, stressing you out, right?
I'm so stressed out right now.
It is.
And I think
it's
a good point is, and this is something that I see a billion actors make a mistake of, when it comes to pilot season, and even if you have theatrical representation, don't wait till February to ask about headshots. Do not wait till February to say, am I training enough? Do not wait till February to say, hey, so what do you think that I should be doing? Oh my God, be ahead of the game. Because I always say we are preparing all year round for pilot season, so to speak, which is now technically sort of all year round.
Right.
We're still booking pilots right now, and people are being replaced, and there's recurring, and there's so much activity at times up and down throughout the year. So don't just focus your energy 100% only on that time, but at the same time, know that when it's time to play, that you're ready to play hard. No agent worth their weight should be looking at submissions of new talent in the middle of pilot season. They're focused on the team that they have at that point, and we always say at this point, we're locked and loaded. It's on the roller coaster we have to ride to be respectful to the people we've been pitching all year round, that we've been getting feedback on all year round, that we already know what you're made of. And no good agent can successfully pitch you and support you through pilot season who just met you 5 minutes ago.
And be ready for the journey. Because again, that process, like Jaime was saying, who's the writer, who's the director, who's in the room. When you go to get a pilot and you do that first audition, and then you do the producer's callback, and then you have to go in front of the network, the studio, and then the network. And before you go to the network, they make you sign a contract that says, here's what I'm going to make over the next 7 years if I get this job. Because English people, here we do 7-year contracts. Back there, I know, for the people watching at home, they do the shorter contracts, or you do sign on for a series, which may be 1 year or maybe even 2 years. Here, you sign 7 years of your life. And you're looking at that number and how it's going to change your life before you go into a room full of executives who are not particularly warm. You know, back when, I mean, look, let me put it this way. We all want you to succeed. We want you to be great. We really do. Look, I don't want to go out and get you and bring you in for an interview and have you suck. It wastes my time. It wastes your time. Everyone wants you to succeed. But I've literally heard stories of Paul Lee, when he was at ABC, sit there and go, and you finish your audition, he goes, yeah, we didn't find it. And walk out of the room while you're standing there. In front of a whole room full of executives. So that pressure before you've even got the job, you need to prepare yourself for. They are so depressed right now, it's not even funny.
Stick
Well,
with commercials, stick with commercials. Happy land, super fun, lots of auditions, no problem.
So-
Look at Flo, changed her life. Changed her life, $3 million a year.
So we've come to the end of our time with these very talented folks. Let me just say I'm deeply honored to have been asked to moderate this seminar. Thank you
Well,
very
we
much.
demanded it, Zeno. We demanded it.
Thank you. So thank you to the SAG Foundation and British Equity for this opportunity, and please join me in thanking our illustrious panel for tonight. Thank you and good night.